Okay. This written journal is from 6/2, and the Mayan day was 10 Flint. So let's see what it says. I've got the converter going on another video, or this one would be live, but that takes too much processing power. So here I am. This time I come with an idea that I want to explore, in heart, of course. It has to do with labeling, with giving things names. Let's be multidimensional while we take a look at this, so that we can realize how much naming isn't needed in the higher planes, where telepathy rules. When given something telepathically, you just know what is meant. It takes no labeling at all. I'm going to step out for a moment here and say, I'm not certain if telepathy is exactly what it is in the higher dimensions. It may be something deeper than that. It may indeed, because telepathy, no, it's not telepathy, it's deeper. And those of you that are aware, see, we're all telepathic, my friends. Every single one of us have thoughts go through our head every single day that are not our own. They didn't originate with us. But if we uncritically accept everything we think is our thought, then that's our interpretation of it, and that's how we're going to look at it, and we won't be aware. So, back to this journal. So I think we can then see how names and labels are very much a part of 3D. And that doesn't make them either bad or good, just characteristic of life here on Earth. We're not going to do any judging with this, just taking a look. Now here's what I propose, that naming and labeling is not only of 3D, it is also characteristic of mind. Now, to me, mind and 3D are deeply interlocked, and they may even be synonymous. I don't know. I further propose that the emptiness sought in the East as a way of being is characteristic, or it can be, of heart. I may even find that these two are both sides of one coin, but that I don't know just yet. What I do know or find as I explore these things is that to go in one direction is to go away from the other. The more labeling and being specific that I do, the less that I'm in heart and more in mind. And the more open or empty I choose to be or experience, the more in heart I am and less in mind. I find this intriguing. It's telling me something which I haven't thoroughly sorted out yet. There are several, or at least two, possibilities that I see right away. One is that heart and mind are indeed two opposite poles of one thing. I hadn't ever considered that before, but that doesn't matter. Since anything is possible, it pays always to be open. The other is that these ways of perceiving, mind and heart, are simply characteristic of particular frequency ranges, of particular dimensions or densities. Now that's closer to how I've looked at it so far. Here's where I go with that. No dimension is worse or better than another. Sit with that, please, for just a moment. I think there are many, as in many of us, that have decided that 3D is worse and 5D is better. See what you can do about letting that go. That's a judgment. It is not quote-unquote right or even better to be in higher dimensions. Do you have resistance to that? Just watch. It may be more pleasant or something that's desirable, but that too is relative. if you just spend a few endless eons in higher dimensions, you might well be longing for some time in the lower ones. Time in a body where you could actually experience time and touch again. It just depends. Do you see? Another good point is that just because our current experience of 3D is what it is, and it does have some very rough edges, at least for us light beings, that doesn't mean that's characteristic of 3D everywhere. I'm sure there are places and planes, planets, where their 3D experience is quite beautiful, even a golden age. Why not? So, before going farther, I want to shed all judgment of any kind, either favoring one dimension over another or favoring heart over mind. It truly all depends. Mind is an excellent and relevant tool for experiencing and exploring 3D. I've also found it an excellent companion and compatriot of heart, once they are put in right relationship with one another. Parenthetically, and that relationship is for each one to choose. For me, as you know, I put heart as the superior, as the one in charge, the tiebreaker. Now, that being done, what I think I'm seeing is that by getting into more and more specificity, into the detail that requires labeling in 3D, we can leave heart farther and farther behind. I find in heart a great tendency to expansiveness in general. Yet I feel the two can be linked up to participate and cooperate with one another far more than they do today, in general and in me. By having at least some of our focus in heart while we drill down into the specialization that's so neatly labeled and laid out, we could potentially bring a powerhouse of intuition to the fore, bring it to bear on our task. It's a thought I haven't previously explored, though, so I truly don't yet have any experience to back this up. I'm just putting it out there. It helps to remember to keep in mind that all is ultimately only one. All this seeming separation and detail and endless labels of seemingly separate things, all of this is, on one hand, illusory. It's all quite temporary, as is everything in 3D. That's a well duh. It comes and it goes, and we observe it meanwhile. All that ultimately remains is our experience of it, for we are truly eternal. What do we, as call us light beings, for lack of a better word, here in form, what do we gain from all this experience of separation? I guess we'd have to ask Source, since that's where the whole move out of total oneness originates. And that isn't so impossible or improbable as it sounds, since we are that. Each and every one of us, along with all that is, are thoughts in the quote-unquote mind of Source. In quantity, we're not the wholeness of that, but in quality, we are exactly that. We are Source. So I guess in some way that means we have to ask self, higher self. Interesting. I'll drop that one down into heart, since I don't know how to do it just now. Meditation, I suppose. Anyway, moving on. I just know that mind and heart can harmonize far better than I've seen up to now. As I sit here being ever so grateful for the heart vision that gives me a whole new lease on life, a vastly different view of the world, I know that mind must participate in this. So the two have ways of connecting and interacting that I haven't seen or explored up to now. And see, I've slept on this journal. And so as I'm reading it, I have more knowing and more understanding now that it's true. It was a real challenge for me to be able to conquer mind, so to speak. It was a fight for a while. Mind is so thoroughly and totally in charge that I found it very challenging to try to step out and away, to empty the self, to not be in the past or the future, to disconnect from thought was trying, difficult and challenging. And so for a little while, I kind of beat up on mind in order to insist that heart was to get the better of it. That it was my determination that heart was now going to be in charge. And I was just so totally insistent that I got kind of rough on mind with it. But I'm going back now and merging more and more with a better understanding, because we don't do this 3D thing without mind. It's absolutely crucial, critical, and a key component of our existence here. And anyway, that's the history on that. Okay, there are things that are great about everything, including 3D and, let's say, 5D. One is not better than the other, just different. So it's not a judgment on either 3D or mind to say how much I enjoy being in the higher planes. There's such a oneness there that's so comforting. It's imbued with real peace, not to mention love. Here's the idea that's been growing on me recently. Instead of us trying so very hard to rise up and ascend out of here, how about shifting that and bringing the higher one on down? What about anchoring the higher dimensions right here, right now? That keeps coming to me as the best way to bring about a real oneness in the dimensions right here. After all, we are multidimensional. That's a fact that each one can take and experiment with and prove it to the self. If you've ever had an OBE, you know it. Really, if you've ever had a dream, you know it, because dreams are not pretty pictures that run through your head. You leave the body and you go have experiences. Just be aware that with this or any other idea you experiment with, your beliefs will play a big part. So if you're having trouble bringing something into focus that you'd like to experience, have a good bit of observing your beliefs around that. Perhaps do a bit of weeding out the old ones from your garden of belief. What I have discovered so far is that no matter what dimension I go out to explore, I find myself already there. The self that I am or have stationed there is complete in herself. So far, they've been feminine. She is also living her own life quite distinctly from this one here. So far, she whom I discover seems to know me, though I don't know her as yet. And this is a really deep way to experience the other dimensions. You don't have to find a separate identity there. You experience the other dimensions whenever you rise in consciousness, so you can do that right here in this identity. No, I can't explain it. And some will think I'm visiting with other beings and not just myself on other dimensions. Who knows? They may be right, but I don't think so. Not yet. But I'm open. What I'm really open to is that I don't yet recall, while wearing this skin suit, how things go together. I know that deep within there is a knowing of this. I'm just not fully accessing it yet. It feels really good, though, to know that knowing, that awareness exists and right within me. The biggest mystery of all may well be the self, my friends, who and what we truly are. According to the Andromedan beings who speak with Alex Collier, it may well be that we are the Patal, or the founders, beings from 11D. Now, wouldn't that be interesting? I hope each one can make room in their belief garden for the beautiful flowers of the anything is possible variety. They are so awesomely expansive, so beautiful, and full of such wild variations. They're just amazing. The more room we make in our garden for these flowers to grow, the more our older beliefs that disagree and our programming will show up. They'll come to the surface to fight the new plants and crowd them out. Remember, the best way to discover what your hidden or subconscious beliefs are is to adopt a new one, a new belief. As soon as you take it on, you'll begin seeing what's inside that disagrees, or maybe what agrees. It can be subtle at times, but if you're looking, it's usually obvious. This is one of the many blessings of turning our focus inward, on to ourself. We catch ever so many things that once would have glided right on by unnoticed. We're so blessed in so many ways. I'm just waiting for more and more of us to begin to discover how life itself, no matter what plane, is really and truly awesomely beautiful. We hear the old saying that beauty is in the eye of the beholder without deeply considering it. What does that mean? If we keep our focus trained on the self, then we can find out. It's not the world that needs to change, my friends. It is us. As we make changes internally, we'll begin to spot them out there externally. The more time spent within, the more chance we'll take on heart vision. When it first appears, it's not quite perfect, and this isn't due to any flaw in it. It's due to our beliefs. The more and more we pull the old belief weeds from our gardens, the ones that are so limiting, the clearer and clearer heart vision becomes. It seems it can endlessly sharpen and clarify. It sees only beauty, but this is too much to explain. This is something higher dimensional that mind isn't cut out to understand. Mind's specialty, remember, is 3D. And while it's tempting to say heart's specialty is higher dimensions, that isn't so. Heart takes in everything and works everywhere. I will say, though, that spending time there will tend to pull you up into higher consciousness. Okay, I guess that's all. I may not have come to any complete or final conclusion here, but it's the way of the journals, and well to remember that the journey itself is the thing, the now, not the destination. Completions or endings are really illusory if we think there's anything final about them, instead of just new points of beginning. So this whole subject is still in process. I'll appreciate anything anyone has to add in the comments. Maybe you can help it come to fruition sooner. Besides, we do better together, which makes perfect sense, since we're really just one.